Hi there, Ramon from Memories, and today we have,
Lickety Glitz.
hi there, Lickety Glitz, and how long have you been a caregiver?
My mom was diagnosed in 2012, but the first 4 years my father was the primary caregiver, and then he died, and my sister and I have been caring for mom for the last 4 years.
My condolences, first of all, about your father. And I guess secondly, how has the transition from being more a secondary caregiver in those beginning stages to being the primary caregiver with your sister, how's that transition been for you?
It was tough. It was really tough. My father vowed to keep mom at home, and he set the tone for the journey, so we knew that's what we were going to do too. Um, but my sister and I had just come off a pretty brutal falling out between the two of us. So even the 3 weeks before dad died, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and he died 3 weeks later. Just navigating, she and I trying to support dad and trying to help mom, and that was very touchy. Then dad dies, and suddenly, both of us are totally devoted to our mother and committed to keeping her at home like dad wanted, but learning to adjust to each other, let alone dementia, let alone our dad's dead. It was tits up.
Wow, that's a lot, especially in like a 3 week period. Like that's a lot. That's a big change and all. So
It
many
was a lot to
responsibilities
take
in
on.
life. How has your relationship with your sister progressed since that time?
Uh, really well, actually. But it's been, the one thing that was nice was my parents were very specific about who they wanted to make decisions for them should they get to that point. And I'm the oldest, so I was chosen. And my sisters never really desired that either. So we didn't, even when we weren't happy with each other, we trusted each other that we were doing our best that we could for mom. When decisions come up, I always consulted her and still do, and just take in the information she has to give me and her opinions, and then I make the decision, and she's very respectful of that. We have a lot of wine nights. We're down to, when we first started, we split the week, and I had 4 days and my sister had 3. And that's since changed. We've brought another person in. My sister's down to one night a week. We've always done really good after a couple of bottles of wine. And now we have a wine week just once a week, or wine night just once a week now. So it's hard. And I hear a lot of people talk about family and how difficult it is. And it is. But it's kind of like being divorced parents. Like, you just keep your mouth shut and support each other, and if you got your little snipes, you do it off camera, you do that elsewhere. So but we do pretty good. And actually, strangely enough, this year has somehow really turned around. We've kind of been more sisters than meow.
Well, I'm happy to hear that your relationship has progressed. And
Well, I was always perfect. She's been the problem.
I definitely relate to that. And as you said, especially this year, there's been a lot of progression in terms of your relationship with your sister. But this year, for a lot of people, has been very chaotic. For a lot of words, there's been a lot of drastic changes that we've all had to go through. So, how has the pandemic affected both your relationship with your sister as well as your caregiving experience?
It hasn't really affected my relationship with my sister at all. And as far as a dementia caregiver in a dementia household, we're in stage 7, so we're coming towards the end, and every year, even though we have been very, very good at keeping mom engaged and commitments and social, all that stuff, you still every year you lose a little bit of freedom and you get a little bit more isolated. And there was a group of us caregivers who were kind of laughing when the pandemic first started. It's like, yeah, so how do you feel being stuck at home 24/7? Welcome to dementia. We've been doing it for years. So some of the ways it's affected us is mom had a day respite center that we super, super loved. And of course, they've been, shut down until this is over. So she was going there 5 days a week, and we all got a break, for 4 or 5 hours in the middle of the day. Well, that's different now. Mom got COVID really early on, in March. And I believe my sister, her boyfriend, my boyfriend, who also lives here, and our part-time living caregiver had it. And I didn't. I've been tested twice and I have no antibodies. So don't ask me how that happened. I must have like cement in my immune system, because mother just coughs directly in my face and eats my food and drinks out of my water glass and does whatever she wants, blows her nose on my coat. But somehow I did not get it. So, yeah, so I actually think it's kind of almost less of a transition for some dementia households, because we were already used to not having the freedom to go to work and the freedom to see our friends anytime we wanted, and so, yeah, it was tough. Mom having COVID was really scary, but she just basically slept for 3 days and then came out of it. So,
well, I'm very grateful that your family and loved ones were able to survive and move past this unhinged. I'm incredibly grateful for that. And I guess I'm happy that
it's kind of oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, it's kind of a weird feeling. I mean, a part of us were like, well, if COVID takes her, that's a better death in some ways. When you're a dementia household, you think about these things. It's like, would I rather have her die of COVID? And we would have kept her at home. We wouldn't have done hospitalization or intubation or any of that. Or do I want her, to probably die of pneumonia within the next year, or choke to death, or, fall and go into a coma? It's a very odd place to be. And I think for us, we just had to look at those feelings, and I was terrified of her going and I was terrified of her living at the same time. So that was weird to think that way about your parent. But
yeah, for sure. And I would guess, what was that experience like emotionally for you, being in that place of debate and uncertainty?
Just looking at it and recognizing it and not judging myself for those emotions, just thinking, this is life and death, and life and death are messy, and sometimes you're going to have messy emotions fighting each other, and we use humor a lot to get through this journey. So of course my sister and I would make jokes about it. And the time when she was sleeping 3 days straight, our part-time living caregiver who joined us last year, she's here for 4 days and she's wonderful, but we would tease her when mom wouldn't get up, and I'd yell to mother minder and I'd say, well, is she alive? Mother minder would say, I'm not checking, you go in and check. So you just kind of have gallows humor and be honest and non-judgmental and love your person and take care of her the best you can and keep moving. Just keep swimming.
And I think it's awesome that you're able to kind of have that light humor and banter with your sister to lighten the situation. I think quite a few caregivers have told us that is certainly a strategy they use to kind of deal with some of the harder emotions. So
That, and we drink a lot.
Oh my goodness. I mean, as long as you're doing it safely, a little doesn't hurt. um, so I guess what other strategies do you use on days when days are getting a little difficult, or when things are getting a little heated in the household, or you're getting a little frustrated with your caregiving role? What are ways you use to calm yourself and ground yourself and approach a situation?
A lot of times I have to walk away when I'm getting very frustrated, especially this last year with mom moving into stage 7. There's a lot less to get frustrated about. She is just kind of, to me, it seems like she's straddling both worlds now. She's already kind of halfway onto her next adventure, and she's still halfway here with us. So it's not as, it actually in ways gets easier this late in the journey. But in the early parts, especially when it was just me and my sister, you know, a 4-day stretch, 24/7 was really difficult. And when my sister is here, because my boyfriend and I moved in with my mom to take care of her and keep her in her home. And when my sister is here, I'm here. When Mother Minder, our part-time live-in, is here, I'm here. That, like, there's always people in the house and people to you know, get a hold of and say, can you just give me 5 minutes? I'm about to strangle her, or she's going to strangle me, or, you know. But when they aren't here, I'm the only one. You know, my boyfriend is really great when he hears mom has a split level, so he's mostly in the basement, and when he hears things going wrong upstairs, he'll come up and, you know, just kind of spot me and stuff. But the support level is different for me than for the other two, which is how it should be. I'm the primary, so, but it does mean that sometimes my frustration, I just have to walk away and just, you know, go outside when she's not looking and pet the dog and, you know, try not to lose my temper. And sometimes I do. It's tough.
And, you know, I think that's a beautiful thing to end on, that, you know, when things are getting hard, sometimes we do lose our temper, sometimes we do get frustrated. And yes, we're caregivers, but they're also human, and humans, that's a natural human response. You shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't be upset by it. You should just learn from the situation and figure out how to improve for next time.
I write, I'm the author of the blog Stumptown Dementia, and I've been writing about our adventures in dementia for the last 3 years. And I always tell people, you know, unless you're about to throw yourself off a cliff or throw your loved one off a cliff, you're probably doing okay. You know, you may not be doing great. You can learn and do better, but, you know, this is a tough journey. And you got to cut yourself some slack, and you got to cut your dementia person slack, and just bring plenty of forgiveness to the game, because you're going to need it for everybody.
For sure. Forgiveness is key. Forgiveness of your loved one, because they're trapped in a body and they oftentimes can't help themselves. And forgiveness of yourself for making not human mistakes in a really difficult situation. And thank you for bringing up Stumptown Dementia, because I'd love to ask you about the role of social media and blogging in your caregiving experience.
I think social media, I don't think social media has been super helpful to me. Probably one of my biggest learning experiences and support systems. The L's Connected forums are fantastic. I belong to several Facebook groups, Reddit groups. What I found very early on is that the medical professionals don't really have answers, because nobody specializes in dementia. The people who really had the best advice and the best options of things to try, because it's dementia, you never know what's going to work. The experts were on social media. They were the caregivers who are already further ahead in the game than we are. I also follow several people living with dementia. Awesome insights there. A lot of them on Twitter, especially. It seems like I run into them more on Twitter, but there's also some blogs I follow, people writing from the dementia person perspective. You know, that just gives you a whole new world to understand your person. They've just been crucial to, social media has been crucial to my experience, and writing about it, even if nobody ever showed up to read it, it just helps me. Every time I have to write about a terrible thing that I did, or a great thing that happened, or super success or super failure, it just helps me process it and think about it, spit it out, get it out of my head, and move on. So it's been very important too.
For sure, and I think it's amazing that you've been able to find a platform that you can use to express your emotions safely, and also a platform that other people can learn from, for people who are maybe going through experience that you're currently going through or have been through.
Well, and I needed something creative to do too, you know, and here's like, well, I've got these really fun pictures of mom, and then I can write a little caption or maybe a little paragraph and get into Photoshop and screw around with stuff and design a website. And it's like, it's been a lifesaver when I have the weeks that I don't have a whole lot to do. I just sit down and try and encompass and pull together 2 or 3 blog posts of all these things that have happened that I want people to know about. And some of them are terrible. And some of them are fun and they make you laugh. And some of them you read and you're like, oh my God, I'm that horrible to my dementia person too, but at least we're all trying. You know?
We've heard from a lot of caregivers that oftentimes when they go on social media and start sharing their journey and maybe interact with people who aren't coming from the same space as you, they haven't been caregivers, they don't take care of loved ones with dementia, and they may have some misconceptions about what being a caregiver to someone with dementia is like. So have you encountered that, and what do you think the biggest misconception people have about caring after a loved one with dementia is?
I've had some critics who have been upset about particular posts, and you're right, they're not caregivers. They don't quite get it, how you can get to a place where you're being a pretty awful person. But no, I haven't run into a lot of misconceptions. I don't think. I mean, I'm mostly on social media where people are behind me or ahead of me in this journey. And most people are really just trying to learn. You know, we're just trying to have somebody tell us, you know, what did you do for this huge problem? Hey, great, I can try that with my person, you know, or has anybody else come across this? You know, like the first time you find poop that's not in the toilet, you're like, oh my God, this is gonna happen, you know, and you want reassurance, and you want to know, is this something I can look forward to, and how do you guys deal with this? And, you know, and the answer is yes, poop not in the toilet is going to be a big part of your future. Get over it. But, you know, it's just so helpful to have somebody who's been through the journey already say, don't worry.
Sure.
You can do this, and if you can't do it, you can make different decisions so that, you know, you just work through it.
Sure, of course. And, you know, as the person proceeds in their dementia journey, caregivers also have to change and adapt and grow to fit their current needs. And we find that a lot because, you know, it's not just a stagnant person, it's a journey over a period of time, and caregivers need to be adaptable. So how have you grown personally from the experience of being a caregiver for full time for 4 years, but realistically 8 years?
You know, the last gift my father gave me was, I was living down in LA when he got sick, and I hated it down there, but I was making money for the first time in my life. The last gift my dad gave me dying was he brought me back to Oregon, and I couldn't go back there because mom needed me. The gift my mom has given me is I now know I am capable of more love, more patience, more compassion than I ever, ever knew was within me. Dementia shows you the absolute best, most noble parts of yourself, and it shows you the absolute worst that you didn't think you could be either. And it teaches you to learn how to live with both.
No, I think that's such a beautiful thing. This what is has been unfortunately really challenging experience allows you to look almost introspectively and learn things about yourself that maybe you wouldn't have learned had you not gotten this experience. And I think that's such a beautiful outlook to have on this. I guess my next question would be, what advice would you give to someone who's recently become a caregiver or maybe struggling as a caregiver right now? What's something you would have liked to hear in your early stages?
My sister and I, a couple of things. My sister and I, her kind of naturally knew to do this, and I made a conscious decision, was to open mom's world up. My dad was kind of insular. Once he died, my sister and I decided to just bring all of the family in, keep contact with all of her friends, keep all of her social engagements that she had, which weren't many. So we expanded that too. We made new friends in the dementia communities. We asked people to go do things with us. We didn't shy away from mom, and we didn't we invited everybody else to not shy away from mom either, to not be afraid of it, to just go with it. She's going to do wacky things, but she still likes to go to movies. So we're going to figure out how to not, interrupt everybody else's good time at the movie, but we're going to the movies. We just didn't hide. We'd take her to the grocery store. I mean, we just took her everywhere. We didn't like, oh, she's so delicate and can't do anything. Mom's so mobile. We just took her everywhere. And in grocery stores, she would always go up to, the first handsome man she saw and touch his arm. And, she was so shy before dementia. Now she's an unabashed flirt. So I would say, do not alienate anyone. Make sure you have lots of people on this journey with you. The less isolated you are, the better. And it's hard during a pandemic, but you can still do drive-bys with your dementia person. You can still have people over in the yard at a distance. And for those that have their dementia person, I mean, you just don't want people to get so far away from your dementia person that the next time they see them, all they see is tragedy because they haven't been there for the steps in the progression. The second thing I would say, and I think all of us take a while to learn this, is trust yourself. Understand that all the advice you get is fantastic. Take it in, whether it's coming from some bitchy aunt that you don't ever want to hear again, listen. Think about it, realize your dementia person's strengths and weaknesses, your strengths and weaknesses, what kind of financials you have to be able to do something, and make the decision that you need to make because you're the only person who sees the big picture. And then just be firm about it. So many people want to chime in and say how you should do this and that and this and that. And I've always listened and I've always thanked them and I've always done exactly what we needed to do. And it took a long time to get there. And I made a lot of mistakes. My sister and I both did, thinking that other people had more information or knew better.
I think that's such a beautiful point to touch on because, there's no one size fit all model to being a caregiver.
Right.
The person you're looking after, what your current situation, that's all three unique factors that are going to contribute to the situation. And it's important to take advice. It's important to listen to the experts. But it's also important to trust yourself, because you know the person you're looking after better than most people, if not everyone. You know what's best for them, and you know what's best for you. And you need to keep that in mind as you're going through your caregiver journey. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
You're welcome. I'm just full of beautiful points.
Yes, you are. So thank you so much for sitting down with us today. We really loved hearing your perspective, and we know you're super active on both Instagram and on your caregiving blog. So if people watching this video want to come and learn more about your journey, where can they find you?
I am at stumptowndementia.com. I think Twitter is stumptowndementia.com, and Instagram's maybe Lickety Glitz, I'm not sure. But if you come to stumptowndementia.com, the blog, you can find all those social media connections. And yeah, just it's when I started, I was really looking for someone who was writing about their experience at the place I was in, and I couldn't find it. So, you know, you may jump in and check some blogs and be like, oh, we're early stages. What were they going through then? What might be similar for us? What might mirror our journey? I hope it helps people. It helps me. Screw the rest.
And honestly, that's just as important. But stumptowndementia.com to learn more about you and your entire caregiving journey experience from the beginning stages to now.
Good, the bad, and the, oh my gosh, that was horrid.
Okay. Well, thank you again for sitting down with us, and be sure to tune in next week for our next Caregiver Spotlight.
You're welcome. I hope you edit this because I talk too much.
Yeah.